Illuminate Teens, welcome to our lesson for today. We're going to be talking about a law for God's people. And this is very, very important for us. If we are God's people, then we need to be able to follow these, okay? We need to be able to look at these as being important. Because, God didn't give his law to be totally abolished, totally be done away with. It was actually fulfilled through Jesus Christ, but yet it's a reminder of how we do fall short, how we do need Christ, but yet it's just how to properly live in a relationship with God and with man, with woman, with child, whatever it might be. So this is very important. And the doctrine that we're going to be talking about is special revelation, in the sense that God revealing himself to man through his word, it's very special through his word, to show us exactly how to live our lives, to show his character. I mean, this is his character coming out through the Ten Commandments here as we look at this today. And I know we've dealt with this before, but that's okay, because we always need this healthy reminder, and it'll be a little bit of a different perspective than what we handled before. But our relationship with God influences our relationship with others. And that's very, very true, and how we respond to the commandments that God, through the rules that God does give. And yet these rules, these 10 commandments, are actually summarized through love God and love others, that's given by Jesus in Matthew 22. Okay, so these are very, very important for us to be able to respond to live by. Now let me ask you this. Have you ever seen a sign that says, "Do not touch"? What do you want to do? Touch? Okay, it just seems like that's our initial response all the time, in the sense of, somebody tells you don't do something, we end up doing it. A few weeks ago, I told Kian, I said, being a 3-year-old, I said, don't touch these boards, don't go around them, they have wet paint. And guess what I find him doing? Within minutes of me telling, he's actually jumping over the boards, back and forth, that I told him not to jump around. Don't be around, because it's got wet paint. What do? We naturally run for disobedience. Why? Because we have a sin nature. Because it started with Adam and Eve. When they sinned, and when God told them, don't eat of this, guess what they did? They ate of that tree. And that disobedience has been inherited from generation to generation to generation. So God gives this law because they've come out of Egypt. They've been living under a totally different law, so now they are free. And how are they supposed to live? Well, God gives them a way to live their lives, okay? And have proper relationship with him and with others. And so what does the law do for us? Well, it protects us. It protects us from the sin, from consequences, from so many things. It is a protection. It also is helping us to have this standard, to know how to live, okay? It gives us instruction. Okay, this is how we need to live our lives. It's also a revealer, in the sense that it reveals our need for a Savior, because we can't abide by it fully. Why? Because we are sinful people. Okay? We always fall short of the glory of God, of his righteousness, of his perfection. And it also is for our good. Okay? There's so many things that the law is good for. And one of those being our own good. Okay? Why can't you go 150 miles down the roadway? Why? Because it actually protects the children that might run out. You don't have as quick reaction time. Or you hit a wet spot in the road, hydroplane, or hit some black ice. I mean, there's a reason why there's laws out there to protect, to give a standard, to help you know how to live. I mean, there's a reason for it, and it's actually a way for us to be able to love God and to love others. So God delivers his people, and there's constant complaining, and yet God constantly provides for them. He shows them his grace. Now let's go to Exodus chapter 19 and verses 3 through 6, and it says there, "And Moses went up unto God, and the Lord called unto him out of the mountain, saying, Thus shalt thou say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel, Ye have seen what I did unto Egypt, the Egyptians. Now I bear you on eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself. Now therefore, if ye will obey my voice, indeed, and keep my commandment, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine. And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and holy nation. These are words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel. So he's telling Moses, you go and tell Israel, the Israelites, how I've done so many things for you, and I've delivered you, I've rescued you, and I want you to be my people. I want to have a covenant with you. It actually talks about in chapter 20, verse 1 through 2, and God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. He's done so much for them, and he wants them to be his people. All right? And so Moses actually goes and tells them about that, okay? And he lets them know, okay, here's these 10 commandments that I want you to follow. But you know, it's hard to see sometimes when we have rules put on us, given to us, we have a hard time seeing that it's actually for our good. Okay? We struggle with it. We just think that all of a sudden we're being put under bondage again. But that's not the case. Again, you need to understand. As you mature, you'll be able to understand and look back and see how these things have been for your good. There's a reason why your parents don't want you out at midnight. There's a curfew. And if your parents don't have a curfew, they should. Why? Because you have no business being out at midnight, because there's a load of bad things that happen at midnight. Believe me, people in the dark love to commit sin. Why do you think taverns are always open so late? What do you think? Even during this coronavirus, this was just a statistic that got let out of the bag here, that at 3 a.m. pornography viewing went up 40% since this virus hit. See, people think that in the dark that nobody sees what's going on. But our sin is always come to light in the sense of it reveals itself over time. And so it's very, very important, for us to be able to understand, these rules are for our own protection, for our own good. What rules from your parents have you come to appreciate over time? And maybe you haven't understood that yet, but you will one day. 10 years down the road, you'll be able to understand, okay, this was really for my good. And I understand why my parents did this for me, and it did protect me from a lot of things. So just remember those things. Okay, so he set them free from Egypt, and this is how he wants them to live. These are the commandments. Why do you think that God wanted his people to live differently? Because those that were his people should reflect that. They should reflect his character. And that happens a lot. And you say, how so? Well, just think of it this way. We've talked about this before, and some of the characteristics of your parents that come out in your life. How do you think that happens? Well, you're living around them, you're seeing their character, and it tends to come out. You tend to learn that. Okay, he wants us to learn his character and how we live. And so you watch this, he wants us to live differently because he wants us to represent his name in the right way. So that other people will see, okay, these are his people. This is how you're supposed to act. This is how you're supposed to live properly with God and with other human beings. Exodus chapter 20, verses 3 through 8, he goes through and he talks about several, the first 4 commandments, okay? He talks about no other gods before me, no graven images, don't build an idol. He talks about how you shouldn't take his name in vain, and that you need to honor the Sabbath day and keep it holy. What are these for? It's all in relationship with him, in the sense of He needs to take precedence in our life. There should be no other thing, being, whatever it might be, that takes precedence over God, because He is numero uno. He's number one. He's God. And we shouldn't take away from His name. We shouldn't make it in vain in the way that when we call ourselves Christians, we shouldn't trash that name by how we live. I mean, there's so many ways that we fail to uphold even these first 4 commandments. He wants to keep the Sabbath, us to keep the Sabbath in the sense of set apart one day where you rest, where you focus on Him, where you keep that separate. Why? Because He wants us to continually come back to Him and focus on Him. He goes in the rest of 20 and talks about our relationship with others and community, because He's built us for community. He's built us to be around others. And the way that we can do that is by not doing certain things, or by doing certain things. So honor your parents. Doesn't mean you always agree with them, but you're going to honor them. You're going to respect them. And they do have authority over you, so you need to be able to understand that and respect their position. Okay? And how you speak to them, your attitude. There's don't kill. Not even in your thought process. When you hate somebody, it's almost the same exact thing. And Jesus points that out. Don't lie, don't steal, don't commit adultery, keep your marriage promises. But God, Jesus also said that if you lust in your heart, it's the same thing as committing adultery. Don't covet. Don't desire somebody else's stuff to where it turns into sin and jealousy and wanting ill upon them because they have something that you don't, whether that be a character trait or whether that be materially, whatever that might, by their looks, whatever that might be. You know, we need to watch ourselves in how we live in relation to other people. So which of these commandments do you struggle with? What do you struggle with? Oh, I could struggle with several of them. Because there's moments of weakness where I give into myself and my selfishness, and I give in to sin, give in to the temptation. So it's very, very important for us to take even this lesson that you may have heard 100 times and focus on the truth from this. We need to love God and to love others, and this is how we live it out, by hearing these 10 commandments, living this out, putting this into perspective. Okay? How does Christ fit into this? Well, you know, since this is how we are supposed to be properly living with God and with humans, in the sense of our relationship, Christ is the only one that kept it perfectly. We did not. So therefore, because of our sin, what we deserve is death for all of eternity, separation from God. Yet Jesus bridges that gap to where if we trust in Him, He exchanges our account for His. We get to be righteous, and He takes our sin. So if you trust in God today, I hope you enjoy that. I hope to see you soon. Serious. I miss y'all. We'll talk to you later.